Am I the asshole for not carrying on my late grandfather's support even though I received his inheritance?
Not in the US.
My 21 female grandfather recently passed and left me all his assets. My mother was his only child, and when my parents passed in a car accident when I was 17, he became my guardian. I was studying in a boarding school, so there was no big change to my living arrangement. I spent one summer with him before going to university. The last time I saw him was this New Year.
The thing is, my grandfather has never been close to my family.
He and my grandmother were never married, and my mom grew up with grandmother.
He did attend big events in her life, like graduation and wedding and my birth, but I saw him for like a week every couple of years. My mother knew very little about her paternal family except that grandfather had 2 half-siblings she had met a few times in her life.
I have never met any of them. My grandfather left behind some properties and money. When I looked into it, he has been letting some children of his nieces and nephews stay for roughly $100 a month in his places. He had also set up his bank account to deposit a relatively small amount of money every month to a few older family members. I asked my lawyer to take care of evicting these people and stop the monthly allowance.
The extended family now reach out to me, claiming that grandfather has promised he would help them out until they are back on their feet, and that as I received his inheritance, it is only right I carry on his intention. They asked me for another year and then they will not seek my support anymore.
I know these people are my relatives by blood, but I don't know them, nor do I want the hassle of waiting a year for their convenience. I am not struggling financially as I have full scholarship, my parents' assets and life insurance money, and am studying in a field that will lead to a relatively well-paying job. Am I the asshole for cutting the support? Not the asshole.
That he didn't specify in his will that you keep taking care of these people financially after his death means he leaves everything up to you. Just make sure to check with your lawyer that these people will not create troubles for you.
You are the asshole only for jumping straight to eviction.
Sending them a notice of non-renewal or giving them a timeline to find new housing would have been better.
Having an eviction in your past can make it so much harder to find housing.
You can do with the property what you want, sure, and you have no obligation to let them stay at a severely under-market rent for years and years, but I'm surprised that eviction right off the bat would even be legal.
Tenants have rights. You are the asshole.
Not for not being okay continuing the financial support, but for how you're going about it and your unbelievable callousness.
Yeah.
They're gonna need some time to be able to move out.
And what happens to you elderly relatives now?
Perhaps you can at least make yourself informed about what's going on and how this will impact them.
Are we talking sick 90-year-olds that won't be able to afford rent or food now? I would wish such a thing would be relevant, especially since it will impact you zero to give them a grace period. You can make whatever decision you want regarding that, no matter the answers, of course. Your money. But you could give people some time to find homes and/or other help.
Such an asshole attitude.
No assholes here, whatever you choose.
But if it's about the inconvenience of being tied to these people for a year rather than the money itself, just give the older ones a single lump sum rather than regular payments for the next year and offer the younger ones cash in exchange for moving out amicably within a couple of months.
You are the asshole for the manner in which you're going about it. Jumping straight to,
he's dead. GTFO, while it might be legal, is still an asshole move. You said yourself you don't need the money, so give them a chance, 6 months or so, to get weaned off. You can diminish the allowance over that period to get them used to not having the extra cash. Make it clear you won't be extending the nearly free past the initial grace period, and at that point, they would be the assholes for staying.
Do you have the right to stop it all so quickly? In my country, no judge would allow an immediate eviction with this arrangement.
6 months to a year would almost always be allowed for the tenants to find a new place.
Am I the asshole for not referring to my dad's son as my brother? My dad has an employee, who I'll call Nick. Nick has worked for my dad for 14 years, and in that time they have developed a father-son bond.
My dad calls Nick and I, his kids, and Nick joins us for family holidays, birthdays, etc., since he has no other family that we know of. My boyfriend Alex has always referred to Nick as my brother since I explained the situation, even though I never have. If I talk about Nick, I always just say he's pretty much my dad's other kid, or I explain the whole situation. Alex has tried to correct me a few times and I've corrected him back.
I know this is a sore subject for him because he is adopted. But the thing is, I don't have a sibling relationship with Nick at all. We get along well, but I don't feel like he's my brother at all.
We have an 8-year age gap, and I didn't meet him until I was 11, and I never lived or grew up with him.
I do consider him family and I'd do anything for him the same way he would me, but he's still not a brother to me. I'm just not comfortable with that term.
I've explained to Alex that it is in no way the same thing because he grew up with his parents and siblings, but he still says it makes him feel like I place a lot of importance on blood, family, which makes him feel like I must think he's not really part of his family. This came up again last night when Alex and I were out with his colleagues and one asked if I was an only child and I said yes. Alex then corrected me and said I have a brother, technically.
I said technically I don't, because there aren't any papers of my dad ever adopting Nick, so technically, legally, I'm an only child, and told him to leave it alone. On the way home, Alex blew up at me, accusing me of valuing blood connections only and saying he feels like I'm invalidating his and other adoptees' experiences of family. I said my relationship or lack thereof with Nick is not related to his family and he needs to keep his issues to himself. He's now being cold towards me. I don't think I should feel pressured to pretend I see Nick as a brother when I don't, but I also don't know if I'm being an asshole in terms of my thinking here. I'm not saying adoptees aren't real family, but I know I don't see Nick as my brother even if my dad did adopt him. Not the asshole.
You have a right to feel how you feel. Alex doesn't have to agree with that, but he does need to keep his mouth shut about it. It's not his experience, it's not his place to say, nor is it his place to correct you in public about it.
I mean, the fucking audacity here. And this isn't even an apples to apples comparison to his experience. I agree with him that blood doesn't make a family. But you and Nick don't even have another bond other than both being close to your dad. And the fact that he blew up at you and is now being cold to you would make me do a boy bye so fucking fast it would make his head spin. And your boyfriend is forcing his insecurities onto you, and that's not cool. Nick isn't your brother. He might be family, but if you don't feel comfortable calling him your brother, then you don't have to. It's your family, not your boyfriend's. Not the asshole. Your dad may have a father-son bond with Nick. But that doesn't automatically translate to a sibling bond between you and him. Not the asshole. Your boyfriend's adoption issues aren't justification for him trying to define your relationships with other people. You don't feel that kind of strong connection to this person, and it sounds like maybe neither do they. Your father mentoring them and bringing them into the fold is really cool, but it's ridiculous to demand you call them your brother. Tell your boyfriend to not make his insecurities your problem. Not the asshole. Your boyfriend's issues are his to deal with and shouldn't be applying them to you. Nick is clearly not your brother and you are an only child. Any rational person can understand that. Not the asshole. Nick is not your brother, neither biological nor legal, and you didn't grow up together. If you don't see him as your brother, you don't have to refer to him as such. Am I the asshole for not agreeing to walk my dad's fiancée down the aisle? My dad is getting married in September, and a few months ago his fiancée asked me if I would walk her down the aisle. She's not close to her own family and she has no kids of her own. Dad has me, 17 male, and my 2 sisters, 20 female and 15 female. Our mom died 8 years ago. So it was just us and Dad before his fiancée came into his life, and then ours. I don't really like his fiancée. I accept that my dad does. But she comes across as kind of pushy to me and a little too possessive. She had a moment when my older sister moved all her stuff out of our house a few months ago so she could take it to her own place. The moment was over. My sister asked Dad for photos of his and Mom's wedding if he had any spares, and she was upset that they were still in the house. And the fact my sister wanted to take some. My younger sister and I got upset when all photos of our mom were taken down in the living room and dining room. Dad's fiancée was upset about our reaction and said we should want this to be comfortable for her. She doesn't like us calling her by her first name and tried to influence us to call her mommy. We both knew that was another word for mom and said no. She said it's not mom though and could be special for us to call her that. My older sister had a small surgery and she asked Dad if he would be able to come and stay with her and drive her back to her place. Dad said he could try, and he said to let her know if he couldn't. His fiancée told him she'd do it if he couldn't, and my younger sister heard them talk about it, so she warned my older sister. So my older sister called back and said that if he couldn't, she'd ask our grandma.
Grandma ended up going with her, and Dad's fiancé got upset that she didn't want her there.
Mother's Day was also awkward last year because she expected us to celebrate her.
This year was doubly so because the expectation was still there.
I have talked to my dad about it and I have told her as well. But nothing really changed and she got upset, again.
So I said no to walking her down the aisle, and I have continued saying no, and she continues asking. It's sort of the final few months, and she told me how much she wants me to do it because it shows me embracing her into the family and makes her feel supported by not just Dad but the other male in the family.
I told her I didn't want to do it.
It's become a source of tension. My sisters are on my side and Dad has tried to compromise with her by them walking together, but it hasn't changed things.
Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. This woman is trying so desperately to force a connection and needs time to develop.
She has set herself back years by her aggressive approach, the exact opposite of her intentions.
You don't need to walk her down the aisle, and you don't have to feel bad about not doing it. Honestly, the way she acts towards you and your siblings, she's lucky you're even attending this wedding at all. It's crazy to me that she's getting upset over you guys having pictures of your mom. Your mom will always be your mom no matter how many times crazy lady whines and makes you call her mommy. Cringe. She had to adapt herself to the family, not the other way around. She's the add-on, not you guys. Also, it makes me uncomfortable that an adult is seeking validation from a teen. Try talking to them again. I would guess you feel uncomfortable walking a lady down the aisle who's made her sole mission to replace even the memories of your mom. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. She sounds exhausting.
Don't give in.
Not the asshole. You have valid reasons for not wanting to walk your dad's fiancé down the aisle. It sounds like she's been pushy and hasn't respected your boundaries or the memory of your mother.
Walking her down the aisle is a significant gesture that you're not comfortable with, and it's important to stay true to your feelings. Your dad's fiancé needs to understand and respect your boundaries rather than continually pressuring you into something you're uncomfortable with.
Not the asshole. She's overly pushy and clearly only cares about herself.
Your dad also sucks for not insulating you from her bullshit. There should be no compromise. I love you and want to marry you, but you need to leave my kids alone. Also, your sis had surgery and your dad said he'd try to pick her up. That's also complete bullshit.
Not the asshole. Have a long talk with your dad.
Tell him you're happy that he found someone, but she will never replace your mom.
Tell him that her persistence has made you and the rest of his kids not like her.
Ask him to handle her expectations because it can only get worse if he doesn't.
Tell him not to allow her to have or get rid of any of your mom's keepsakes.
Ask him to divide them among you now.
Would I be the asshole for not allowing our guests to use the pool?
I, 39M, am married to 38F.
My wife's family is huge. Like, big and tight-knit. Most of her family either lives a bit north of us, others live in Midwest, and some live in Texas area.
Very few live too far.
Tomorrow we're having a barbecue.
Most of her family is coming. Overall, no big issues except our pool.
I don't feel comfortable with kids in the pool unless they have a life jacket, and an adult or two are watching.
Last time they came over, mid-May, my brother-in-law was trying to let his 2 kids, which are both under 5, in the pool with no life jacket or parental supervision, under the explanation they can swim, but when I asked for proof to back up the statement, he complied, and in short, those kids cannot swim.
Well, they're coming over again, and I'm considering locking up the pool this time. Or at least not allowing my brother-in-law or his kids to enter it if the previous situation repeats itself. Like, everybody else is willing to comply. What is your problem? Would I be the asshole?
My wife thinks I am wrong because the pool is the thing the kids, a whole lot of kids, will be most excited about.
We'll add any other information that people request. I think your pool urgently needs a sanitization cycle because a skunk, cow, insert fictional animal here died in the pool. It is therefore not usable for 48 hours because users are likely to get Cryptosporidios, E. coli, insert any other Latin word here. Print off a fake bill and leave it on the table from a company called Swim Healthy. Instant treatment, then spend the evening complaining they aren't instant at all and their company name is garbage. Not the asshole for not wanting a child to drown in your pool. Not the asshole. Lock up the pool unless there is someone designated to supervise the pool, preferably with BLS training.
Children drown terrifyingly quickly, and it's very hard to tell between a child having fun and one in serious trouble.
This goes triple if most of the adults will be drinking. On one hand, having a cookout with a pool available and not allowing swimming is a big asshole move. On the other, letting kids swim without any supervision is an even bigger asshole move, with deadly consequences. You and your wife need to get on the same page pronto. All children need to be wearing proper life jackets, swims, whatever, and
every child in the swimming pool area requires an adult there, supervising. If any parent pushes back, "But they'll be fine. I'm here to visit, not lifeguard," then their kids don't swim.
AITA explain your insurance just does not cover guests and lock the pool. Your invitation does not give guests access to everything in your house.
That includes your pool. Brother-in-law was very irresponsible last time. Why risk it?
If they want to swim in a pool, there are other options. Not the asshole. Print this out and hand it to your bill.
Better yet, email a link to it and tell him you will not let his kids in your pool without his compliance. Your pool, your rules, not to mention common sense. Opening square bracket.
The problem is basically not if you're going to let them use the pool or not, but if they actually get in the pool.
If one of those kids manages to make it in the pool and something happens, you're gonna be liable anyway. Doesn't matter if you had a lock on it or if you tried every precaution in the world to try to prevent somebody from getting hurt. The fact that you have a pool period is called distraction, and if the kid gets in there and gets hurt, it's still on you.
Sucks, but that's kind of what it is.
You may want to hire a lifeguard or just have somebody on hand full time to watch everybody swimming to make sure nobody gets hurt.